The brutal unvarnished truth is, Umesh Kolhe wasn't just murdered. The 54-year-old chemist in Amravati in Maharashtra was executed ISIS style. First made to kneel down, and then his neck was hacked repeatedly by 3 attackers. Times Now's investigation has pieced together 6 CCTV footages that reconstruct for you how Umesh Kolhe was stalked, ambushed, and his neck practically slashed. His killers were already waiting in the shadows, knives ready to strike. They had done a recce, they had made prior plans, they had made 2 prior attempts as well. The fact is, blasphemy or no blasphemy, speech or no speech, Umesh Kolhe never stood a chance.
This is 54-year-old Umesh Kolhe. Headed back home on his scooty, his wife and son follow him on a bike. At this moment, he doesn't know the brutal end his life will come to.
जी सर, उस दिन तो एक कैसा, मैं मेडिकल से निकल रहे थे हम दोनों, मेडिकल शॉप बंद करके जी। एक हमारा टाइम रहता है 10:15 बजे से 11, साढ़े दस पौने 11 के बीच हम डेली निकलते, पापा और मैं। उस दिन वैसे ही रेगुलर निकल रहे थे, शायद 10-20 का टाइम होगा, मुझे एकदम टाइम भी रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं है, 10-20 हुआ होगा।
Nearby, Kolhe's killers assemble before the final strike. 2 on a bike while the 3rd walks along. This next CCTV footage shows the assassin waiting to ambush Kolhe, their knives ready to strike.
वहाँ पे 3 जनों ने डायरेक्ट एक चाइना चाकू करके आता है ना, चाइना ये करके जी, उससे डायरेक्ट हमला किया है, यानी गले के ऊपर।
Even the hazy quality of the CCTV cannot take away from the brutality of the murder. Kolhe is ambushed and made to kneel down, ISIS style. Then they started raining kicks and punches, repeatedly, relentlessly, and then the final stab straight to the neck.
हमला किया और डेथ हो गई। मैं उनका मोबाइल कभी देखता नहीं, और उस घटना के बाद तो मोबाइल यानी ये हुआ था उनका, वैसे तो कोई ये नहीं था कि किसी के साथ झगड़ा भी नहीं था, एकदम सीधे साधे, यानी किसी के साथ अभी तक कुछ भी नहीं है।
Umesh Kolhe wasn't just murdered, he was executed. He died face down on the street, nearly beheaded and betrayed by a friend.
All this while, people who are trying to whitewash the real motive of these murders are talking about how Nupur Sharma spoiled the atmosphere in the country. That people who were murdered were blasphemous. But what is it that Umesh Kolhe really wrote? Times Now has accessed the WhatsApp chats that were put out by Umesh Kolhe on the video group, on the WhatsApp group that he was a part of. Now, this WhatsApp group is called Black Freedom. Kolhe and one of the murder accused, Yusuf, were both a part of this WhatsApp group. Essentially, it included chemists, it included businessmen in the area. Remember, Kolhe ran a shop where medicines for animals were sold. Yusuf was a veterinary doctor. They were both part of the same WhatsApp group. They were part of the same social circle. They were even 16-year-old friends. Now, it is here that Kolhe simply posted a few comments in favor of Nupur Sharma and supported Narendra Modi. Now, this also was considered offensive. This somehow is also considered blasphemous. And you know who's the person who started circulating Kolhe's pictures and these WhatsApp chats as blasphemous on another WhatsApp group? The WhatsApp group for an organization called Rehbariya. It was Kolhe's friend Yusuf. He forwarded Kolhe's messages to his killers. It was sent on the Black Freedom group. Simply put, they are fairly innocuous messages. They say that in response to namaz, if it really comes to it, maybe Ram Bhaks should start reading the Hanuman Chalisa. It also said it's our duty to support Nupur Sharma. The time to support our sister is here. We should not be overpowered, and forward this message because it is your duty as a Hindu. Another message also says that keep the likes and shares coming for Bharat ka Sher, Narendra Modi. That's it. These were the messages, saying we must support Nupur Sharma or saying that we must support Narendra Modi. What then could have led to his ISIS-style beheading? Now, this was carefully planned and executed by the bigots who are now under arrest. But there are still people who are holding Nupur Sharma responsible for the gruesome murders. They continue to say, Mahol usne kharab kiya hai. She is the one who started it. She is the one who set the country on fire. But what was Umesh Kolhe's fault? All he said was that I support the right of a woman to have a point of view. Will the whitewashing and the denial finally stop now? All right, joining us on the debate, we have Ratan Sharda, author. We also have Kapil Maddan, lawyer, Varun Singh, senior journalist, and Intikhab Farooqi, leader of the Shiv Sena. Kapil Maddan, is Nupur Sharma responsible for this also? Please unmute yourself.
Padmaja ji, am I audible now?
Yes.
So Padmaja ji, let's look at the situation in the right context. Now, the person who has committed this act, the heinous kind of murder, needs to be booked. And you know, I am attending few debates where people are questioning whether Nupur Sharma is actually responsible for the violence or the killing that have happened at Amaravati or at Udaipur. I will just ask the question here. There are radical elements on both the sides. We saw from the Muslim side also there are a group of people who are raising these slogans like, Sir Tan se juda, etc., etc. And on the other side also we've seen you have, people following religious fanatism. Now, the important point here, the person who is raising this Sar se Tan se juda or who are basically responsible for this act of violence, they are not the official people of any political party. The difference lies here. If a spokesperson of a political party says something on a national television, it would be presumed that this is what the party, she is basically, saying what is the view of the party. And we also saw...
Sir, I am asking you a simple question. What did Umesh Kolhe, presuming, since you are presuming that Nupur Sharma has earned the threats that she is being given, what was Umesh Kolhe's fault? He said it is time to support our sister Nupur Sharma. ये भी blasphemy है. ये भी blasphemy है. कल को Nupur बोलना blasphemy हो जाएगा.
Let me respond.
Somebody puts a picture of Nupur Sharma, God forbid, on their Facebook, वो भी blasphemy हो जाएगा.
मैंने तो ये बोला नहीं.
कल को शर्मा सरनेम ही ब्लास्फेमस हो जाएगा कि आपका नाम क्यों शर्मा है, आप वो भी बदल दो, नहीं तो आई विल गेट हर्ट एंड ऑफेंडेड.
पद्मजा जी, ये आप प्रिज्यूम कर रहे हो. मैंने तो ये बोला नहीं. तो
ये प्रिज्यूम नहीं कर रहे सर,
आर्गुमेंट बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हो.
नो, दिस इज नॉट अ प्रिजम्पशन. द सिंपल लॉजिक इज यू विल कीप कॉलिंग, I mean, I don't even know what to say. You will keep trying to goose-step around the real issue. You are just so scared that you can't call a spade a spade. The thing is, this is a radical ideology which was killing people in Syria. It is killing people in our country, and you're like, Nupur Sharma ने किया है. Nupur Sharma ने बोला कि उसको घुटने पे ला करके उसका सर काट दो.
पद्मजा जी, I condemn जो जिसने
आपके कंडेमनेशन से कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा बॉस. You are not even willing to recognize the culprits.
I am who's denying it? I am never denied.
Why was Umesh Kolhe killed?
Nothing justifies violence.
Okay, let's call a spade a spade. Why was Umesh Kolhe killed?
Calling spade a spade.
Why was Umesh Kolhe killed?
All I am trying to argue here.
Answer the question. Why was Umesh Kolhe killed?
I am answering a question that, of course, let the NIA file its charge sheet. Of course, it looks like,
declaring Nupur Sharma guilty, you don't need NIA. When answering by Umesh Kolhe's case, suddenly आपको NIA याद आ गया.
मैंने नहीं बोला नुपुर शर्मा गिल्टी है.
You just said. You just said that she said what was presumably the point of view of the party, so people got hurt and inflamed and touched.
All I am trying to say here is that, of course, there is a violence, and the person who is committing the act of violence.
Sir, you are talking a lot without saying anything, and I say this with the greatest respect. Varun Singh, why was Umesh Kolhe killed? Why was Umesh Kolhe killed?
Let me ask you a question.
Why was Umesh Kolhe killed? Varun Singh, why was Umesh Kolhe killed? Let's see if anyone has the courage to call it out. Varun Singh.
Maharashtra changed so that we came to know that an incident like Umesh Kolhe on 21st of June took place over here, because yesterday PTI had tweeted that the police commissioner on day one knew that he was killed for supporting or posting something on Nupur Sharma, but they hadn't come out with this theory, and instead the theory of robbery was floated. Had then been, police had acted then, I think Kanhaiya Lal would have been saved. Even before that, there was an incident in Nagpur in Maharashtra where a 22-year-old had to flee along with his family because he started receiving threats just because he had posted a picture of Nupur Sharma. There were more than half a dozen threats that are now coming to the fore. I'm so thankful that the government changed over here. Fortunately, unfortunately, whatever happened, if the government wouldn't have changed, these police officers wouldn't have come out and expressed this. And it is so sad that someone wants to blame Nupur Sharma. I can list at least a dozen of cases, from that lassi owner, Hindu lassi owner being killed in Mathura way before Nupur Sharma made those statements. You have Ankur Tyagi being killed, you have Dhruv Tyagi, Ankit Sharma, you have so many cases that happened before Nupur Sharma's controversial statement.
But you cannot be dependent on who is in power, because the law and the constitution is still supposed to protect you, Ratan Sharda, irrespective of who is in power. But the problem is nobody is willing to call out who is responsible. Just saying who killed Umesh Kolhe and why.
First of all, let us accept that in Maharashtra, police had been totally demoralized by this ruling setup, which put people behind bar on the smallest pretext, and police had no freedom. Police officers got arrested, Home Minister got arrested, Home Minister resigned, and we had so many examples how the law and order failed in Maharashtra. Secondly, I have a name of 17 Hindus who were butchered before Nupur Sharma said anything. I can name them if I wish, but I do not wish statistics, because I am not into the game of lynching, a Pehlu Khan, Falana Khan, Dimkana Khan. But we know that more Hindus have been killed than the Muslims. Now that is a separate matter. I'm really appalled and really ashamed that an articulate young lawyer like Kapil Maddan is trying to equivocate by blaming Nupur, by saying that she is the one who actually lit up the whole idea. I have already given the reason. He doesn't talk about Gyanvapi instigations. He doesn't talk of the ridicule and the insult to Hindu gods and Hindus all those days, right from Shaheen Bagh times. He will simply quote Nupur Sharma. Secondly, if you are talking about such a case, does that mean that you are actually saying that we are always on the heat, we are always burnt up, we are always ready, we are drenched in kerosene? Don't hand us match, please. तो अगर आपने माचिस की तीरी दी हमें, आप जिम्मेवार है, हम केरोसिन में भीगे, हमारी कोई भी जिम्मेवारी नहीं है, ये कहना चाहते हैं।
कपिल मदन
कहना कि सर तन से जुदा is a valid slogan. Have these people said how many Muslim scholars? In fact, there are more Muslim scholars who are actually denouncing Sir Tan se juda than our Hindu friends.
Kapil Maddan.
Of the entire thing.
I will just give a very quick
sense of justice and secularism.
Yes, respond. This is a perverted sense of secularism. Kapil Maddan.
I will just give a very, very short rebuttal here. I am sure Mr. Sharda, let me
Kapil, don't give me rebuttal. Give rebuttal to the idea that any provocation by anybody can lead
अरे इतने इमोशनल क्यों हो रहे हो सर? सुनो, पहले बात को सुन लो, पहले बात को सुनो और फिर समझना कि वो रिबटल है कि क्या, जो मुझे मान लेना उसको। पहले बात सुनो,
शर्मा को मारने को पैसे दूंगा,
पहले बात सुनो,
के बंदे को पुलिस कहती है कि बेचारा,
पहले बात सुनो, पहले बात सुनो, मैंने आपको इंटरप्ट नहीं किया। बिहेव लाइक अ गुड डिबेटर।
आप बताइए, अजमेर के अंदर राजस्थान के पुलिस ने कहा कि वो बेचारा नशे में था, तो उसके पास बहाना है, लेकिन बहस की गर्मी के अंदर कोई अगर कोट करता है किसी बुक को तो वो बहाना नहीं चलेगा।
Hold on a second, Kapil Maddan, did you actually just say इतने emotional क्यों हो रहे हो?
Can I respond?
A man was practically had his head lopped off. What do you expect?
Padmaja ji,
Did you seriously just question why people are emotional?
Padmaja ji, can I think you gave me a chance and I was not given a full time to complete. Allow me to make my statement here. Now I just want to jog your memory a bit and would take you back to 2020. In 2020 we were seeing what was happening at Shaheen Bagh. There were violence reported at a different part of Delhi. In that situation you have booked Umar Khalid. He is still behind bars. And the allegation is that since you gave provocative speeches there was violence there, and a UAPA gets involved.
Which is how a constitution works. He is in jail, alive and well and safe. Which is how the law works, Kapil Maddan. Not by beheading people. You realize the comparison you are making, sir.
I think the Supreme Court observation
that even now there are people who made distasteful comments, and the worst that has happened to them is that they face an FIR, which is how civilized society behaves. You are actually making a comparison between somebody being put in jail and somebody being beheaded. This man was dragged off his scooter in front of his son and daughter-in-law.
It's a heinous crime.
I don't mean to put out gruesome details, but I don't know if you know, since you are questioning why people are emotional, that Mr. Kolhe had every single nerve in his neck severed, sir. His food pipe was severed. His windpipe was severed. That nerve that goes to his eyes was severed. His carotid artery was severed. And you're saying emotional kyun ho rahe ho? And despite that, the fact is that people who killed him are still alive and they are in jail because this is a civilized society.
Padmaja ji, can I make a response
Despite behaving like barbarians, they are being given the full protection of Indian law.
Padmaja ji, I am saying whomsoever has done that, they are monsters. I am nowhere holding their brief.
Why did they do it? Why did they do it? Why did they do it?
At the same time,
answer the question. Why did they do it? Kapil Maddan, why did they do it?
Of course, if I will agree with you, whatever you are saying,
no,
say it looks like a hate crime.
I am not saying anything.
Like a hate crime.
What kind of hate crime, Kapil Maddan? What kind of hate crime?
It is a hate crime. It's a
religious
fanatism.
What kind of hate crime?
It is a religious fanatism. It
Thank
is a
you.
religious radicalization thinking that is responsible for that. I am nowhere denying that.
All right.
I think you are missing the point.
Finally, we are not missing the point, sir. Let me tell you what the man you admire, Rahul Gandhi, said. It has been 20 days since we have had the first murder. The only response to this gruesome, barbaric and animalistic violence has been बीजेपी और आरएसएस ने इस देश में ऐसा माहौल बना रखा है कि लोग एक दूसरे से नफरत कर रहे हैं. नो मेंशन ऑफ रेडिकलिज्म, नो मेंशन ऑफ द फैक्ट दैट द बोगी ऑफ हर्ट सेंटिमेंट्स इज बीइंग यूज्ड टू परपेचुएट अ क्लाइमेट ऑफ वायलेंस. ओनली बीजेपी एंड आरएसएस. इंतखाब फारूकी.
Who made that statement?
Padmaja, I would like to tell you that we are not bothered or concerned what Kanhaiya Lal and Umesh wrote in their post in support of Nupur Sharma. See, I don't think whatever they have written or posted on their social media ID, I would just like to tell you, no one has a right to go and kill them. Okay? I mean, this type of crimes are taking place. I think the people whoever is getting such kind of threat should get some police protection, and definitely, since nobody can make out where the incidents are going to take place and it will happen. But since this
Mr. Farooqi, no, that's a very convenient glossing over. No. Much before Umesh Kolhe died, there were threats, and everyone in Amravati knew about it, sir. Either your local intelligence unit is the most pathetic local intelligence unit in the planet, or that you knew and you covered up. It's not like you were like, oh, हमें तो पता ही नहीं था कि लोगों को ऐसे phone call आ रहे हैं. It was all over. Everyone knew about it. Varun Singh will tell you about it. Varun Singh.
I'm very surprised, Mr. Intaka Farooqi, you represent Shiv which was in power till 4 days ago in Maharashtra. And all this thing was being swept under the carpet so that the government, मुझे अफसोस ये होता है कि सत्ता बचाने के लालच में there were people being killed, but those things were ignored. The police commissioner comes out and says when the government changes that he knew on day one. And it's so surprising that this man who represents Shiv Sena, the party that was in power, says that no one knew. Why do you have a police? Why do you have an intelligence if you cannot? What was the CM doing? He was the head of the state. Uddhav Thackeray of your own party was the head of the state and he did nothing. Instead, I haven't yet seen any condemnation from them yet.
Mr. Farooqi.
I may be completely wrong.
Interesting. Yes. I don't remember one either, Mr. Farooqi.
The police has done several great jobs and they are doing it. And I think
several great jobs.
We just have to give some few times to them. Also, NI team has also arrived and they are also doing their job. Definitely the culprits will be caught and put them behind bars. Whoever is behind this...
Sir, the first arrest was made after the change in government. Several great jobs. Speaking of several great jobs.
Padmaja, see, listen, we have to believe
great jobs
they need some time to catch the culprit. They cannot just catch any innocent person and put them behind bars. They need some time to find out who the person is, who is there behind this, who the person who is supporting them. Should be caught.
Well, it's wonderful, sir. Unfortunately, Umesh Kolhe did not have the privilege of having that time. He could not stay alive long enough for the police to gather the evidence, ascertain the guilt, and finally start making arrests. Because in the meantime, while the police was ascertaining guilt, 3 men caught hold of him and beheaded him. And if you still think that is several great jobs, then best of luck to you. Unfortunately, though, we still are in a state where people choose to remain in denial that there is a radical thought that is slowly creeping and it must be arrested. Till that realization happens, you will never be able to solve the issue till you address it. Thanks very much for joining us. In fact, more news